is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse in somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. The last time he was talking about the Lord of Creation, he was getting yelled at by a nun, Stu Horvath.
I'll take it.
Just sometimes you bunt.
I was looking over the rules just now, and I was thinking to myself, what would it take to make a retro hack of this? And you know, we'll talk about that in a second. But I was like, well, if I did make a retro hack of this, like a retro clone, what would I call it? You know, you kind of got to get like a derivative name so that people can recognize the original name of the game. And I was just like, well, okay, so creation is like another word for universe. I could call it Masters of the Universe. And I was like, no, that's taken.
Oh, that's kind of yeah.
But now I'm like, wait, is this like a riff on that? I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing, man. And I'm going to tell you, there's certain companies out there that are just, they got guys, you know, they're litigious and they got guys.
It's true.
Yeah, so you don't want to mess with that. Real quick at the top of the show, I just want to mention right now, the Weird Heroes of Public Access role-playing game Kickstarter is live. And if you haven't backed it yet, definitely check it out. Joey Royale put a lot of love into this. You've heard it on a previous episode. The Weird Heroes of Public Access role-playing game is one that is not to be missed. Hopefully you backed it in the first 48 hours to get that sweet patch. I know I did. So definitely check that out. And also, if you are looking for an upcoming convention to go to next year, you're thinking about trying to get in on something good. I just came from a great con this weekend, which was called ShireCon. While I was there, I ran into Ron, who is the dude behind the Philadelphia Era Gaming Expo. It is coming back again next year. Tickets are available now. It's one of the most fun times I've ever had at a convention. This is what I call a kitchen sink con because Ron's really throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this thing. So definitely check it out. Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and tell me your old buddy Hambone sent you. I wanted to mention that before I forgot because I had a really good time this weekend, Stu, at the ShireCon.
Oh, yeah.
I was up in Connecticut, and Tom Wilson, who has been putting on ShireCon for years now, really leveled the thing up this year. And I got to tell you, you know, the reason why I love going to these conventions is I get to see people that a lot of times I just know from the internet. And I think it bears mentioning because for the first time since I've been playing games with this dude since the start of the pandemic, I got to meet my buddy Josh Look, who... it's one of those things I thought our paths would never actually cross in real life, but we got to do some gaming together. We got to bro down, showdown, and like that's kind of, you know, for me the true fun of cons is going and catching up with old friends, playing some games, having some laughs. And shout out to the VFW hall that they had this thing at, man. They had like, you know, dude, like 3 bars, 2 gaming areas, an outdoor area to chill, a fire pit, and the Marines were making like food all day long. Like
it goes hard, man.
They went hard, dude. Bro, I had like a cheesesteak, I had poutine, I have high cholesterol now. I mean, it's one of those things where like I highly encourage you if you know, you're kind of like, I should go to a convention. Maybe I don't want to go. But if there's one local to you, man, hit it up, man. Catch up with some people. Have some fun. Roll some dice. Have some laughs. But definitely shout out to Tom. Thank you for putting on such an amazing event. I look forward to next year at ShireCon.
Cool.
All right, that's my rant for the beginning of the episode. So Lords of Creation, huh?
Yeah, man. If there's like one game that I regret not having gotten into the book, it might be this one because it's just... Like people used to ask like, oh, what do you think the weirdest role-playing game is, Stu? And I'd be like, you know, Skyrealms of Jarun, because it's just like, it's really, really out there. And it probably is weirder than Lords of Creation in just about every metric. But man, Lords of Creation's weird.
I mean, real quick though, it always does kind of come back to Jarun, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. I mean, I think Jarun, it's the combo of the art and like the insistence on calling everything funny names that it just makes it seem so much weirder than it maybe really is. But
right.
Lords of Creation is so, all right. There's levels of weirdness here, just in a like big RPG industry history kind of way. Lords of Creation is somewhat notable because it's one of 2 games that war game manufacturer Avalon Hill used to get into the role playing game market.
Oh,
So they were like it's the early 80s. They're just like, oh man, the D&D is really popular, but like we own our own presses, we make high end stuff, we have like staff, we could get in on this. Their strategy was to create a complex game and a more simple game. The complex game was Powers and Perils. I don't own that. I've never played it. I do believe that it rips off a Frank Frazetta painting for the cover, which is not great. Not a great start.
what you mean blatant theft? Yeah, it never really goes any good for anybody.
Yeah. And then I believe that is a pretty crunchy game. I've never really encountered. I don't have a copy. I've never encountered it, but it regarded as a pretty rules heavy game. And then the light game that they released is Lords of Creation, which I also consider a fairly heavy game. And they hired Tom Moldvay to create Lords of Creations. So previously of the BX box sets that we are so beloved in the hobby. OSE is a BX derivative. Not even a derivative. It is BX. It just reskinned and cleaned up. Tom Moldvay, also the author of Isle of Dread, one of my favorite Dungeons and Dragons adventure modules.
It's a good one, man.
Yeah, so like you got this like hiring Tom Cruise, right? Like that's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, you want to make a good action movie, you hire Tom.
So it's so bad, but it's like bad in like a really interesting way. It tries to be a universal system or a multi-genre system, which is distinction of inches, really. Basic role playing is already out. Chaosium did that in like 80. And then Worlds of Wonder comes out in 82 with the multi-genre box. There's like Superworld is in that, Magic World, and Future World. Well, maybe I don't remember, but whatever. The multi-genre in one box, powered by the basic role-playing system. But this feels different. It doesn't actually feel like that kind of multi-genre role-playing. It seems like it feels like it really wants to be like, it reminds me so much of what Rifts and Torg become in the early 90s. Not just multi-genre, but like a genre slurry where you smash. It's like a smoothie of genre where everything is there all at once. And that hadn't been done before. So there's already been multi-genre universal sort of games, but I think that Lords of Creation really is the first time that they've tried to put a genre mashup into a role-playing game. Does it succeed? No, not at all. But it does something. It's so relentlessly strange that it really is noteworthy, I think, just to sort of stare at and wonder at. Complicated system. It is D&D derivative. You can see the bones of BX onto this thing. There's a skill system and a power system. The skills are sort of what you expect. The framing here is for you to have like regular modern day characters mixing with fantasy characters, mixing with futuristic sci-fi characters of all types. The rules are very modern day specific. So the skill system feels very much like just like a modern setting, real world setting skills. What's weird about the skill system is that they're nested. So they all have 5 steps basically. And the 5th step is like an undefined sort of magical or futuristic tier of your skill. So because they're tiered, you have to have them in order. So like, it kind of makes sense sometimes. Like a detective, skill 1, police connections. Skill 2, basic criminology. You can see how that's building on
okay, yeah,
on
it's
each
a
other, right?
little chain.
And then skill 3 is wiretapping, which I feel is a little out there. And then 4 is advanced criminology, and then 5 is a futuristic or magical version of those things. Makes enough sense that I can kind of get it. But then you look at like something like the theatrical tree and you start with acrobatics. It's like, okay, I kind of get that. And then trapeze work is level 2. It was all right. That's more circusy, but I guess circus is just really big theater, right?
Yeah.
And then 3 is wire walking, which same problem. I feel like we're very much in not theater. But then the fourth skill tree is the fourth level is impersonation. So in order to impersonate people, you have to be a trained acrobat who does trapeze work and tightrope walking. That doesn't make sense to me. And it's just sort of like the camera tilts a little bit, and it's just like what and what that says about the world to me is that an assumption about the world of Lord of Creation is that anybody who can impersonate people with any kind of skill is also a trained acrobat.
Yeah, like a circus performer. Like, dear listener, you can't see it because you're listening to this audibly with your earballs, but my eyebrow just keeps arching every time you mention something, Stu. Like, but wait, but for why? Doesn't make no sense.
It doesn't. It just doesn't. But it makes enough sense that it's like a workable mechanical system, and I understand the idea of making these tiers because it's like it's a skill progression, or it has something in common with like tech trees in a board game, where you're progressing in incremental steps, and it makes sense. But but then you get into the nitty gritty of it, and you're just sort of like, this doesn't. It makes enough sense to work mechanically, but it skews the fiction of the world in a way that's really odd. Like Master Criminal starts with international connections. It's like, okay, sure. And then tier 2 is smuggling. All right. But then tier 3 is safe cracking. And it's like, really? That feels like
that's an escalation.
I feel like it's like a separate skill tree. I feel like and then forgery is after safe cracking. So every forger in the universe learns how to crack a safe before he can pick up a pen. It's very odd. The powers work the same way. You have like poltergeist, which is like a psychic ability, psychic power tree. The first one is sound control. The second one is telekinesis, apportation, gravity field, teleportation. All of those kind of like, all right, I understand why that's all grouped together and how it progresses. But then you get to wizard, and the first one is animal control, which, all right, not really something that I would associate with wizards, but okay, fine. But then the second one is necromancy. And then the third one is flying.
It's all over the place.
Right. And it's just like, okay, so if you see a wizard who's conjuring storms, you know that he's practiced his craft on the dead at some point. Like it's just a weird way of classifying things and it just implies such curious things about the world and its construction that I find it infinitely humorous is what it comes down to. It makes me laugh. And there's only 10 levels in the game. I don't really, I've never really dug into the mechanics over much because it's just it seems very confused and like muddled, and I don't want to. I'm never going to run it as is. So I don't know what happened, how you get from level 0 to level 10. But the most interesting thing about the game, I think, mechanically, is that at level 10 you become a Lord of Creation.
Okay.
And in theory, that's basically very similar to what Frank Menser was doing with the Beckme boxes, which is sort of the inheritor of Moldvay's work. At around the same time, it takes a couple more years before the Immortals box set comes out, but that's essentially what the Immortals box is. You become a Lord of Creation. The funny thing is that the Immortals get a whole box set at TSR. Lords of Creation, you get literally one paragraph or you get literally 2 paragraphs describing your main function as a Lord of Creation. It gives you the ability of construction, which is the ability to make new settings for adventure, following whatever structure the physical laws the character wants. A flat Earth, a world on the inside of a sphere, a huge spaceship, etc. Construction encourages players whose characters become Lords of Creation to become GMs and design worlds ruled by their Lord of Creation character, where further adventures could take place. I think that's really novel. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
It's like, I become one of the most powerful characters in this world. Well, now I get to become the game master in another world, and you guys get to play in my world, and it changes things up. That's really cool. It would be really, really cool if there was a lot of support for that mechanically.
Yeah.
There is some guidance about how to create worlds in the back, but it really is geared towards GMing, which I think that the interesting thing would be to make GMing a player ability like any other ability and sort of game it out, which I think that there's potential there that was left unrealized. I think, and that's a bummer, because like I think that that's the coolest part of this game mechanically, which I keep saying.
It does keep coming back to the word mechanically, doesn't it?
In the box set, the rule book is 64 pages, and it's accompanied by a second 64-page booklet called Book of Foes. This is where it starts to get really good.
Okay. Monster book. I'm here for it.
It is a monster book. It is easily the weirdest monster book I have ever encountered in connection to role-playing games. I don't know what kind of drugs Moldvay was on, if he was even on drugs. It is a relentlessly strange cluster of monsters, and I don't, they're just, it's so, there's so much here. He's just throwing everything possible out so that you could, like, I guess, create worlds. The artist who does all the art, Dave Billman, I don't know that name at all. He's got sort of like a classic, like just like a hint of like a Prince Valiant kind of style where everybody's got like 40s hair.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But then everything, like he makes everything really strange. There's a lot of, it's so odd. There's a lot of, so the first part of the book is basically just animals they're animal rulers. So it's basically like human beings with an animal head. So like, you know, the bird ruler is like, has an eagle head and wings and maybe like, and he's got like little taloned feet. But they're all ripped and they're all kind of like flexing. So, and it makes it feel like a really strange pinup calendar.
That's kind of like what they did with like the Jim Lee kind of like pinup art of the X-Men ladies back in the 90s. Where it's just like is this a comic or is this like a little cheesecake book? Like what's going on here, guys?
Yeah, it's like the rhinoceros guy is definitely flexing. But then there's like just really strange. There's just strange. I don't know what to do with this. The Opsis is the ruler of snakes. She is a giant snake-headed woman. When I say snake-headed woman, you think like Thulsa Doom, who like a humanoid whose the head is literally just a snake.
Yeah.
No, that's not what Dave Billman drew.
We drew like a Medusa?
No. Opsis looks like a woman in every way. And she's got long blonde hair that sits on a snake. Like, so there's like a long snake body that comes out of, that is like, she's basically got a really long snake neck that a wig sits on. It's so
like it's a snake, like a snake wearing disguise. Like they won't know it's me as long as I have this wig on.
Yeah, here, let me you need to see it.
I don't think you did it justice in your description, Stu. That's oddly horrifying. Like, we're gonna have to refer you back to the website for this, folks, because I'm even having trouble discussing it. What it feels like to me is if you've ever seen any of the Phantasm movies, Reggie, the ice cream man, who is one of the heroes of the franchise, that dude's always horny. And he constantly gets himself into trouble where he finds himself a lady and he is going to try to attempt to make sweet love to her. And when he touches her shoulder briskly to kind of turn her towards him, there's always something fucked up going on with her face or her head. Like one girl had like a sentinel spear in the side of her head when she pulled her hair back over her ear. The other like turned into an old witch, stabbed him. What this piece of art feels like is that like Reggie's like, okay, cool, I'm going to make sweet love to this woman and I'm going to roll up there. And like when I touch her on the shoulder and she turns, her face her whole body is normal as shit, but her face turns into a snake and like tries to bite me. Like you got to see this picture, folks. Go to vintagerpg.com. There'll be a link in the bio. in the story and all that stuff. But like,
It's like it's almost, it looks as if the snake is like wearing a human suit,
yes,
and it's like crawling out of the headspace where the where the I don't know. It's very weird. There's a T-Rex smoking a pipe. There's fascist praying mantises. Puss in Boots is in here.
well, fair play. It's a T-Rex in a spacesuit with longer arms than a T-Rex should have, getting high. And there's
Does
also
look like he's getting high.
he's only out there getting stoned. You know, he's like, he just crash landed. He's like, well, I got to get on that sticky icky, and like take the edge off this crash landing. There's also like a dude embracing a woman who's got like a little dude like attached to her, like a part of his back. It's kind of hard to tell with the
It's like a little man backpack.
little man backpack. Yeah, it's kind of like a Loungefly backpack, except it's like a dude who looks like he will jump around, kind of like the Igors in Castlevania.
Oh yeah, he does look like he's a leaper.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at that crouch, man. Look at that wide stance. No tipping him over, my guy. He's just gonna bounce off and just be problematic, especially if you have to do time jumping. Like,
Yeah. Oh God, he's always gonna get in the way.
fucking time jumping.
It's a lot. It really needs to be seen to be really believed. So many of the monsters just have multiple arms, and the way Billman draws them, they're hard to parse. There's a cat spider cross breed thing. It's absolutely horrible. I like it's just relentless, and it gets even better because there were planned to be 5 modules. They only released 3, each in a small half-inch box. Avalon Hill had like the high-end production design. This is one of the sturdiest, most nicely put together box sets of the period. It came out in 83, which is the same time as the Red Box Basic. And that box is flimsy. Like, that's why it's hard to find it in good shape. This box is like a solid, it's basically, if you're familiar with Avalon Hill, they made their bookcase games. It's the same kind of box, super sturdy. Like, you could, drop it out the second story window, it'll be fine. So they make these 3 scenarios. The introduction scenario is called The Horn of Roland, and it starts at a gaming convention where there's a murder, which of course it does. The Wild Hunt is in it. You go to the Bermuda Triangle. There's monsters and aliens, and there's like head switching, and you run into like I think Adam Weishaupt, who founded the Illuminati, is in it. I could be wrong.
Okay.
The fascist praying mantises show up. Cyrano de Bergerac is in it. It's a lot. It just goes full tilt all the way through, constantly like changing and like adding stuff and barreling right along, right into the Yeti sanction, which you're trying to. For some reason, the Secretary of State has been kidnapped by terrorists who are based in Mount Everest, where they are turning humans into Yeti. I don't know why.
I mean, it sounds to me like old Moldvay was getting high with that T-Rex before he took fingers to typewriter.
But then, like, it's just constantly, it's just like, okay, so there's aliens there and they're turning people into Yetis, but then there's more aliens that show up, and then more aliens that show up, and then all of a sudden there's this gate at the end. And where does the gate take you to? But the third scenario, which is by far the strangest. And like, I love this thing, man. It's just so ridiculous.
I mean, it definitely sounds like they were like, okay, how much can we fit in 1? And then how much can we fit in 2? And like, why didn't it make it to the 5? Was it just not financially successful, or?
Nobody bought this game. Same with Powers and Perils. It's like they both came out in 84 and they were both canceled by the end of 84. But the third adventure, we've lost so much, Hambone. Culturally, as a culture, by canceling this game before the last 2 box sets came out, I can only imagine how different the world we lived in today would be if we had those 2 box sets, because the portal in scenario 2 drops you into scenario 3, 200 years in the future, at a post-nuclear Holocaust Akron, Ohio.
Akron of all places?
Tom Moldvay's hometown.
That makes so much sense. Right what you know.
there's a pamphlet in the box that's like notable city history. So the idea of this scenario is, okay, a nuclear holocaust has happened. We have to find the event that created it, which of course is going to be like an evil lord of creation, and we've got to fix it. And the way you fix it, there's all of these enslaved workers. They're called wage slaves in what is called Novos Acros, who are put to work by capital M managers.
Wow.
Oh, wait. you have to free these people. And to do it, you enlist the help of the ghost of John Brown. And
what?
I don't know what to tell you other than this is possibly the greatest role-playing adventure ever written.
It sounds like it. It sounds like no stone was unturned.
The ghost of John Brown. I mean, John Brown was right, and Tom Moldvay apparently knew that. But to see his ghost, like he's got an illustration and everything. It's so. There's like kung fu guys with skeleton faces and zombies and dinosaurs and John Brown's ghost, and it's just all crammed into one thing. And it's just, man, people say, like, no shade on Goodman or anybody who claims the Gonzo title, but man, I don't think anybody has been quite this Gonzo since 83. I mean, that's 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Yeah.
41 years ago.
41 years ago. I think we hit peak Gonzo.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this sounds like one of those movies where like it's an and then.
Yeah.
Where like you're like, oh, we're in this world, and then we take this like special magic portal to this other world. And while in this other world, stuff from this other world starts pouring in, and we have to deal with it. And then, like, you know, we're trying to like stop this big bad dude with like our primitive weapons, but now here comes a T-Rex. Like, holy crap, man!
It and thens with such speed that I just cannot imagine these things in play. People would be on the floor like gasping for breath because they were laughing so hard. I feel I just think that like it would be the craziest roller coaster.
It's like, oh, hello, Nazi praying mantis. Meet my 1d4 dagger. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. And there you have it. Lords of Creation. Avalon Hill's one of two major failures for Avalon Hill. Avalon Hill never really did a good job getting into the role-playing game market. But you know what? This game was ahead of its time. It definitely was a pioneer in cross-genre play, and it was definitely wackier than anybody. The problem was that because of the production value, it was expensive. And, you know, to own the line, you needed to own 4 box sets. And that was it was too much money, especially for the adventures. And people just didn't buy it. And if they did, I think that the system is a little bit rough and whatnot, but you know, all those systems back then were a little bit rough. I think that this one, the adventures propel it along with such velocity that I think that if it was cheaper, there would be much love for this game today.
Yeah, I mean, especially with such the and then escalation of that system, like it's hard to just kind of like I can futz this, you know, with something from another book, because it's just like, but I don't have a woman with a snake coming out of her head, like you know, it's crazy. But man, I love learning about all this new random stuff. And listen, you know what? I got to tell you this. I know you're bummed that you didn't get to put it in the book, but hey, man, that's what a volume 2 is for.
We'll just do a whole book on Lord of Creation. It'll just be
33 pages. It's a zine length book on Lord of Creations.
I wish Moldvay was still around so I could pick his brain about this, because boy howdy, it's something.
Yeah, might be the Dennis Hopper answer, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like most of those guys were pretty straight laced, which is
I know, which is the most like funny part of all of that. It's just like
all of it's always just so you know, across the gamut of early RPGs. The logical question is, well, what were they smoking? And the answer is almost always nothing. They were just, you know, pretty normal middle American weirdos.
Yeah, just coffee left on the burner too long, and like some midnight oil. Just stayed up late and working. Well, I mean, I don't even know where to go with that, but this is another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Dude, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on vintagerpg.com. All 4 Lords of Creation publications are up there with posts, with plenty of art, including the lovely portrait of the ghost of John Brown.
Like, of all people to pull in,
I mean, if you're going to fight wage slavery in general, you got to tap the big dog, John Brown.
Here. I don't even know who I am anymore. You can find me across the internet at John McGuire RPG. I'm posting more. I'm going out places. I went to ShireCon. I'm doing stuff. But yeah, go check out my stuff. There's a link everywhere on my social media for my backer kit. I am launching a hardcover rulebook for 3-point action RPG, along with a monster book called the Encyclopedia Monstergoria. We're going live on the 22nd of August, and I would really love it if you gave us a shot and checked us out. We're going into our 5th year as a company, and we're finally launching a full-bodied rule book, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So just check that out. Anywhere where I have a link, there's going to be a link to that backer kit. Get notified when we go live. If you get in there within the first 48 hours, you get a free PDF zine with that as well. And then we also have another sweet thing that we're going to add in there as well. I got some cool stuff coming up from people who are in the business who are going to be designing monsters for the monster book as well. So check that out. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. If you really like the show, why not become a patron? Patreon.com/vintagerpg. We got a behind the scenes look at Stu's stuff. We got a behind the scenes look at my stuff. For as little as $1 a month, you get early release episodes sometime on Friday or Saturday, depending on when we record them. At the $5 tier, you can play a game with me every month. The $10 tier, you can play in the West Marches campaign with Stu and in my game every month. This month for October, I'm running Eat the Reich. And in November, I'm actually going to be running Top Secret.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
Well, I'm friendly with Jason, who is Solarian Games, and I was kicking myself for not picking up the box set at TotalCon, and then I ran into him at ShireCon, and I called him up ahead of time. I was like, yo, you got the stuff, I got the monies. And then, we made a deal out of the back of his car. True story, folks, where he had a bunch of copies of Top Secret. So I'm going to be running that in November. Also, I'd be remiss if I did not offer my condolences to the friends of James Carpio and the family of James Carpio. James was also a partner over at Solarian, also a prolific person in the hobby. He passed right after ShireCon, so my heart is with you and all your friends and family. But, always hug your friends at the gaming table, tell them you love them, and try to get together as much as you can. That's it. That's the show, man.
Hey, I got to tell you something.
What's that?
I meant to mention it earlier. I ran the march yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's a dungeon under their settlement. And in that dungeon were a bunch of monsters, but the one that they couldn't deal with was an iron golem. It's been plaguing them and for over a year and a half. So it's basically the second session. They went down there. The thing was going to basically kill them all because they just still can't take it on. But one guy had a disintegrate. And I failed my save. I didn't even get to attack. I'm so angry about it. And I just Daisy's like, man, you got to let them win every once in a while. Like they don't win very often. Like you got.
Like, it wasn't my choice. The dice decided.
Like, I rolled a 2. My savings throw was 8. It was a fair and square disintegration. But holy crap! Way to go, Teddy, the elf whose skin falls off. Anyway, I just needed to share that and vent a little bit.
And this is why we play the game, folks. This is why you got to get together with your homies and roll these dice, because of memories like this that you'll cherish forever. And trust me, I've been friends now with Stu for like over 2 decades. It is hard to get one over on Stu like that. Like, that is a feat of greatness at the table. And the fact that the dice rolled in your favor on that one, folks, is A+, amen. But that's it. That's it for us. Another great episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Hope you have a great rest of your week. How do I sign these things off again? Jesus.
I don't know. I screwed it up for you. The flow's gone.
The flow's gone.
For Stu Horvath,
Oh, that's it.
I'm
Thank you,
John
man.
Handbone. McGuire.
May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.